So we know that Shakespeare wrote a ton of great plays. We know that theater was a huge part of the English Renaissance, and we know that all of this stuff survives with us today as great texts. But plays are meant to be performed, so we're left with the question of who put on Shakespeare's shows? Who made these plays come to life? The answer is theater companies. This was something new that was kind of developed at this time. You had regular groups of actors, writers, producers, money people, people who would fund the arts, and they would put on shows. Shakespeare was associated with two groups through his lifetime. The first was the Lord Chamberlain's men. Now, the Lord Chamberlain is a royal, it's a position in court. It's the person who is the advisor to the king or queen on any sort of matters of entertaining or ceremony or household management, kind of like the head butler to the queen or king. So the Lord Chamberlain of the time, of Shakespeare's time, Henry Carey, patronized his group. That means that the Lord Chamberlain would put up money for them to put on shows that he wanted to see in theaters he wanted them to perform at. And this is where Shakespeare wrote a lot of his early work. Later on, as Queen Elizabeth stepped down and King James of Jamestown fame took over the English monarchy, Shakespeare and his guys, the Lord Chamberlain's men, got promoted. They became the King's men because they were patronized by King James himself. So Shakespeare was kind of the in-house writer for the Lord Chamberlain's men and then the King's men. He would put on plays for these actors and these kind of help direct these shows for these guys. And these actors were some of the most famous people in Renaissance England. Richard Burbage was kind of the superstar of his time, performed in Shakespeare plays. He was the Lord Chamberlain / Kingsman lead man. He was definitely, we know, the first Hamlet, and he originated a lot of other Shakespeare works. We think he was probably the first Romeo. We actually don't know who the original cast of Romeo and Juliet was. That was an earlier play under the Lord Chamberlain name. We don't have a cast list for it, but we know Burbage was likely to have been Romeo. There's also a guy named Will Kemp, who was kind of the foremost comedian of the time, known for clowning very silly things like antics on stage. As the switch happened from Elizabethan theater to Jamesian theater around 1603, as the switch between rulers happened, the clowning and the silliness kind of went out of fashion. The wordplay and the wit came in. This is why Shakespeare had the promotion, really. This is why his work was thought of as being better. People started to recognize his wit, his wordplay, and that became in fashion. These weren't the only groups. There was another really famous troupe called the Admiral's Men, and the main actor in that troupe was Edward Allen, Ned Allen, who was possibly Burbage's only competition as like the most famous star in England. When London had instances of when there's like plague in London, they would close the theaters. You couldn't go see a show. Nobody could. It was a public safety measure. During those times, Ned Allen and the Admiral's Men would tour around England, and they brought theater to the people. They became very famous doing so. They really became huge superstars by going out and bringing theater, making it into a touring thing, which survives today. We have professional theater that goes and tours, so Broadway shows can come to Richmond and things like that. The Admiral's Men did occasionally perform Shakespeare. Ned Allen originated some roles. Burbage did most of them, but Allen did as well. So there was a lot of interplay between these two groups. The system of patronage, where the aristocrats or royals hire companies to put on shows, continues to about 1642. That's when Puritans take hold of Parliament and they close the theaters. They say it's bad, it's sinful, and they shut them down. This lasts until 1660. The theaters reopen, but this time as a well-to-do thing. It's no longer the peasants and people coming in. Theater is now for the rich, and it will continue to be so for quite some time. This is also when women start to come on stage. For whatever reason, society then was just changing, but it became acceptable for women to start playing female roles. And the old system of theater companies and all of these guys in a room together putting on these shows kind of goes out by the wayside. And we lose some of those traditions to move into a more modern director takes a script, cast actors that they like, than what we would think of as a more modern playwriting process. There's a film called Shakespeare in Love. It was the Best Picture winner in 1999, and it is a comedic look at the original production of Romeo and Juliet. We don't know much about that production. We don't even have a cast list from it. So even though we think Burbage was probably Romeo, we don't know. This movie imagines and fictionalizes what went on behind the scenes to make Shakespeare's work into what we know today. It's funny, it's witty, has a lot of in-jokes. The particular clip I want to show you here features a lot of these people we're talking about. Shakespeare's in it, but Ned Allen makes an appearance as well with the Admiral's Men. And it's going to show you a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek relationship between Shakespeare as a writer with the moneyed producers, with the actors, and how they all kind of play together and work off each other. Obviously it's silly, again, it's fictionalized, but it's actually a pretty good representation of the different powers at work in putting these shows on, kind of the personalities at work.
Gentlemen, thank you. You are welcome.
Who's that?
Welcome.
Nobody's the author.
We are about to embark on a great voyage.
It is customary to make a little speech on the first day. It does no harm. Authors like it.
You want to know what parts you are to receive? All will be settled as we go.
I'll do it. Now, listen to me, you dregs. Actors, a ten a penny. And I, Hugh Fenneman, hold your nuts in my hand.
Huzzah! The Admiral's men are returned to the house!
Ned!
Henslow!
Most welcome.
Oh, good to see you.
Who is this?
Silence, you dog! I am Hieronymo. I am Tamburlaine. I am Faustus. I am Barabbas, the Jew of Malta. Oh, yes, Master Will. I am Henry VI. What is the play, and what is my part?
One moment, sir.
Who are you?
I'm the money.
Then you may remain, so long as you remain silent. Pay attention. You will see how genius creates a legend.
Thank you, sir.
We are in desperate want of a Mercutio, Ned. A young nobleman of Verona.
And the title of this piece?
Mercutio.
Is it?
I will play.
Mr. Pope! Mr. Phillips. Welcome.
George Bryant, James Armitage. Sam, my pretty one. Oh, are you ready to fall in love again?
I am, Master Shakespeare.
Your voice. Have they dropped?
No. A touch of cold only.
Master Henslow, you have your actors, except Thomas Kent.
I saw his Tamburlaine, you know. That's wonderful.
Yes, I saw it.
Of course, mighty writing. There's no one like Marlowe.